How you doing, folks? Let me plug this rascal in. There we go. Well, time for the mandate ELD'S is upon us. What is it, today? Tomorrow? Yeah, I think it's tomorrow. Hold on a second. Oh, sorry about that. There's a lot still wrong with it. There's a lot wrong with hours of service. The ELD'S is just a minor part for most of us. I remember back when I first started dealing with any of this electronic nonsense, the company had Qualcomm. That's what we got our dispatches on and sent in our, what they call them, queue messages or whatever they called it, I forget. Well, I've been sitting there flipping ash out. I got ash all over my door here. The logs were still paper logs. And that's when I was teaching the wife how to drive. All of a sudden, I make it to the yard. Log department wants to see me. I went in there and I was my happy-go-lucky self, and she informed me that I had 18 violations. I'm like, okay, how many are we allowed? I think she said like 31. And I said, well, that's cool. And she's like, no, that's 31 in 2 years. Excuse me? Well, I was over halfway, and I'd only been with them about 6 months. Wasn't looking good for the home team. And I'm like, I've been logging for years. Where am I messing up according to your logging? And she commenced a showing where they took that arrival call and loaded call and departed call and all this off that Qualcomm, and they compared it to my log. First time I'd ever had any of that kind of nonsense happen, and I went apeshit. I literally left the office. I mean, I was hot. That was before the Lord had came in my life, and I didn't have control of my temper real good. And my wife stayed in there talking to him. I eventually went back in after I'd calmed down. And I listened to her little spiel. And I found out how that nonsense worked. And I said, okay, you won't be catching me like this no more. Well, what do you mean? I said, I just learned how to play your game. And they didn't catch me like they did like that no more. That's how I feel about these electronic logs. That's why I am forcing myself. You remember in a video the other night, I told you that I was only an hour or so away from making it to my receiver. But according to that computer, I was tired. I needed a break. And I debated on running on in. And I elected not to. So I wound up being late for the delivery. I said then, and I'll say it again, I didn't ask to have computer logging forced upon me. Didn't ask for it. It was forced upon me. And like everything in trucking, if you're not very careful, we, the drivers, are going to be the scapegoat. My dispatcher will not tell me to break any of the rules. He won't do it. He ain't got the cojones. He don't want to take the responsibility. He don't want to carry the blame. However, I can tell in his voice at times that he wishes I would take it upon myself to do it. Why should I? Yes, it's going to cost a little bit of money. However, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I said it back when they came out with these new hours of service. If we will all run by the rules that they have laid out, the industry will change. Simply because they still expect us to break the rules. If you go over on your hours on that, it's not shutting your truck down, it's not doing this, that, or nothing. All it's going to do is send a computer notice to their home computer in the office, and you're going to be in violation. And then they're going to give you the verbal reprimand and the written reprimand and blah, blah, blah. We all know how that goes. They're going to make us the scapegoat. And then after you get so many of those, they're going to fire you. And then when DOT comes in and audits the office, you're going to be an example. Because they're going to tell them, oh, we've gotten rid of drivers that just couldn't seem to abide by the rules. They kept going over on their hours. We kept talking. Look, we even counseled them. We'll be the scapegoat. So instead of making us the scapegoat, why don't we abide by the rules? I'm just reading online where there's people still out there saying, well, we need to go on strike. We need to all shut down for 3 days. We all need to... No, what we all need to do is abide by their rules. They're the ones that have harnessed us with these rules. And if we can't make that work, it's not our fault. I know it sounds crazy, but think about it. If all of a sudden their appointments ain't being met, yes, it's going to cost us a little bit. It won't cost us near as much if we go on strike. Because if we go on strike, we ain't making squat. And you can lose your job. However, if you abide by their rules and you miss a couple of appointments, all of us, do you know what that's going to do to Walmart? What it's going to do to the food stores? What it's going to do to our companies? And right now, none of the companies are really worried about it. My company ain't really worried about it. They give it lip service. We've talked about the getting to your receiver and running out of hours. They won't give you an explanation on what to do. Read some of the comments on that video I made about it. I'm not the only one that has a company that won't tell you what to do. They're leaving us out to hang. They're making us make the decision. Hollow Point said his boss told him to go to the nearest ramp. You know what? Even going to the nearest ramp, you're still in violation. You're still in trouble. You're the one that's going to take the fall. The company's going to say, we didn't know what to do. We didn't tell him to go. Years ago, literally 5 or 6 years ago, hell, I guess it was more than that. Damn near 9 years ago. Man, where has time gone out here? Because it was before Obama came in. It was before I lost my good insurance. That's why I know it was before Obama. Our company, and I've told you bits and pieces about them, it was with Champion. They was one of the best companies I've drove for out here, and damn sure had good benefits with them. That was trade show freight. And no, they're not in business no more. And the trucks you see that says Champion on them is not that company. They had started bringing in Swift. They had us running Outlaw. And boy, we made some money. And it wasn't nothing to bobtail from California or Las Vegas all the way back to Atlanta. It's a hell of a bobtail. If we didn't bobtail, we deadheaded. Because we was moving our freight. We didn't mess with no broker freight. And we was making the money. We got a new transportation manager in over the whole country. We had half a dozen warehouses. And he started getting broker freight. Well, now we're having to deal with this nonsense. We didn't like it, but we had to do it. The company was still pretty damn good, and we still made pretty good money. Then after a couple of years of that, and he started showing a profit. You know, where before with that trade show company, the trucking was just a necessary evil. We cost them a lot of money. We did our job, but we didn't make them any money. It was an expense. So with us doing broker freight, it started showing break even and making a profit type deal. Well, they got a new manager, some attaboys. So he started pushing it even more. So now he's starting to run us like a regular general freight company. And he would take our loads that we usually ran crazy with, and he was putting them on Swift. And this ain't a slam on Swift. They haul cheap freight. So instead of, and they could haul the freight, or they would haul the freight cheaper than we could haul our own freight. That's part of the industry's problem. So now we're watching Swift haul our freight, and we're hauling broker loads. We weren't happy. We started talking amongst ourselves, and most of us started running legal. Well, then when Swift started messing up, because it's Swift, they wasn't making the loads or making the shows. We had one Swift driver that was an hour and a half away from New Orleans, and he ran out of hours, and he shut down. When our freight doesn't make these trade shows, it's big penalties. I mean big penalties to our company. How much Swift had to shoulder, I don't know. Another issue they had was the trailers we had were old, wore out junk. We had to patch them. We had to limp it into different shows or whatever, because they was junk. Swift would not haul junk trailers. So that became an issue. So now our company wants us, the company drivers, they would let Swift haul the easy stuff, because a lot of stuff we would haul in long before the show and would put it in a staging area. We had certain places in cities where we would stash these trailers, and they would stay there until right before the show, and then they had a local company that would pick them up and run them into the convention center or wherever the show was. So now they came up with this brilliant idea that they'll use Swift for these early hauls, and with trade shows, they called it the 3 C's. Chaos creates cash. And when it comes crunch time for one of these shows, buddy, there was some chaos. Big time. And there was some hustling. Big time. And we had trucks that would move down the road. And we was known to move some freight to get it over yonder quick. So now all of a sudden, when Swift can't pull it all off and they're in crunch time, now the manager thinks that he should call on us, his company drivers. He's been holding our toes to the fire to stay legal with the logs and all this stuff, making your fuel match within an hour and all this. Well, now that it's crunch time, he wants us to throw the logbooks out the window and just do what it takes to make this show. Well, we're like, no, ain't doing it. We did have about 3 drivers that would. 3 out of 8, because there was 8 of us. And they would wind up doing that for them. When they get ticketed and busted, company didn't stand up for them, didn't stand behind them. They let them go under the bus. And it started putting a hurt on them. So they did start giving us back some of our loads. Not all of them, but some of them. Because they started figuring out they had messed up. First mess up was trying to get Swift to do this. And the second mess up was just assuming that all of his drivers was going to rally for the company. Well, if the company don't have your back, why should you have their back? Ain't that how most of us feel? Well, to me, it's the same thing on this electronic log, on this ELD. If my company don't have my back, why should I have their back? Why should I risk my job and my driving career for them? I know this is a decent company. Y'all know I kind of like this company. But it's still a company, and I don't trust them. They still have their best interest at heart, not mine. They'll give me the lip service and tell me how much they appreciate me and all this stuff. But when push comes to shove, who do you think's going under the bus? I do live in the real world. I can feel them tires approaching my back. So I don't want to risk my career for them. And my understanding is if DOT comes in and they audit all this and I have a bunch of violations, whether I get fined or not is irrelevant. That's only money. But look at the points that it could possibly create for us. I don't know what they are. I ain't got a clue. No, to my knowledge, they haven't come in and audited any companies with electronic logs, so I don't know. All I can do is assume that if I'm getting violations, that I have to worry about my scores. I have to worry about how many points I got. I have to worry about losing my license. And there's only one person that can protect my license. Me. I can't trust the company to do it. You can't do it for me. So that only leaves me. Who's the lead protecting your license? Your career, your livelihood, you. Don't throw your career away for a company that will throw you away. Now, we're already out here busting our ass for 70 hours a week or more. And they would let you go in a heartbeat, and you and I both know it. If it's between you and them, you're gone. All they're going to do is look for another warm butt to fill this seat. Don't fool yourself into thinking you're something you're not. You're only a truck driver. If you're lucky, you're about that high, much higher above being a machine. Because the majority of the companies consider us nothing but a tool, part of the equipment. If you're part of the equipment, what does that say they think about you? don't risk your livelihood for them. They're not worth it. When you're at home trying to get a job flipping burgers so that you can at least pay the interest on your house note, they're still going to be racking up the big bucks. I like my boss a lot. The owner of this company, he's a pretty decent guy. We have some decent, enjoyable conversations. But I am not going to risk my career for him. I ain't going to do it. And if I do, and I'm looking to flip burgers, he's still going to be making the big bucks, and he makes some pretty damn big bucks off these trucks. I know the building and some of his planning that he's got on building this company, and you don't do that off chump change. So yeah, the time is upon us, upon y'all. I've been on them. I've been learning how to deal with them. I've been trying to make peace with them. Now you've got to make peace with them, and you've got to deal with them. And just remember, yeah, you can run over, but who are you really harming? Are you proving a point to them, or are you jeopardizing your livelihood? Think wisely. Don't let them get you to do it. That's my thoughts on it. Y'all remember, God loves you, and so do I. The trucking industry, they'll run over us and just leave us in the dust. Don't you think no different. Y'all have a blessed evening. Good night.